Welcome to the MC3 Executive Podcast. In this episode, we're exploring executive scripts. Language is one of the most powerful tools available to leaders. Yet in global organizations, language does far more than communicate information. It shapes emotion, influences behavior, and determines whether meaning remains stable as it travels across teams, regions, and cultures. A single phrase can accelerate action, reduce uncertainty, restore confidence, or unintentionally create anxiety. This is why leadership language matters. The words leaders choose are not simply carriers of information. They are carriers of interpretation. Many leaders underestimate this. They communicate quickly, efficiently, and often instinctively, assuming that their intention will travel with their words. In reality, intention and interpretation are not the same thing. A message delivered casually at headquarters may be received with far greater emotional weight elsewhere. Reassurance may sound dismissive. Urgency may sound alarming. Directness may feel like criticism. The result is not poor communication. The result is inconsistent interpretation. Executive scripts were designed to reduce that risk. They are not scripts in the traditional sense. They are not rigid phrases that leaders memorize and repeat mechanically. Instead, they are emotional anchors. Short, carefully calibrated pieces of language that help teams understand not only what a leader is saying, but how they should interpret it. The purpose is simple: to reduce emotional ambiguity, to create clarity, and to protect alignment. One executive described the impact this way: "Once I learned to use stabilizing language, people stopped reading between the lines." That is the real value of executive scripts. They reduce the interpretive burden placed on teams. Before exploring specific examples, it is important to understand one principle. The effectiveness of a script depends less on the words themselves and more on the emotional posture behind them. Before a leader speaks, tone is already being assessed. People notice pace, energy, confidence, tension, presence. A perfectly written sentence delivered with visible frustration can create misalignment. A simple sentence delivered calmly can create trust. This is why effective leaders slow down when stakes are high. They separate emotion from instruction. They frame intent before content. And they create steadiness before direction. The words matter. But the emotional container matters just as much. One of the most useful applications of executive scripts is tone stabilization. When leaders notice that a message may be interpreted incorrectly, they can make the emotional intention explicit. For example, "My tone is calm and steady. There is no crisis." Or, "I'm speaking firmly to create clarity, not pressure." Or, "The message is important, but the emotional temperature should remain low." These statements immediately reduce ambiguity. Rather than leaving people to guess how they should interpret the message, the leader provides the interpretation directly. The same principle applies to urgency. Many organizations struggle because urgency is communicated without context. People hear urgency and assume danger. They hear speed and assume panic. Executive scripts help separate those ideas. A leader might say, "This requires increased focus, not fear." Or, "We are moving faster, but we remain steady." Or, "This is an elevation of priority, not a sign of trouble." Notice what these phrases achieve. The urgency remains, but anxiety is removed. Teams understand the required pace without assuming the worst. Executive scripts are equally valuable when defining boundaries. One of the most common causes of drift is uncertainty about what can change and what must remain stable. Leaders often assume boundaries are obvious. They rarely are. A simple statement such as, "The timeline is firm. The method is flexible," provides immediate clarity. Or, "You may adapt locally, but keep the core message unchanged." These phrases encourage initiative while protecting consistency. They create freedom within structure. Another powerful category involves interpretation checks. Communication is not complete when a message is delivered. Communication is complete when meaning is understood. This is why strong leaders regularly ask, "How is this landing where you are?" Or, "Tell me what you're hearing, not just what you're planning." Or, "Does any part of this sound heavier or faster than intended?" Questions like these transform communication from a one-way transmission into a collaborative process of alignment. They reveal misunderstandings before they become problems. They expose drift before it spreads. And they create psychological safety by inviting honest feedback. Executive scripts also play an important role during periods of misalignment. When meaning begins to drift, leaders do not need lengthy explanations. Often, they simply need a reset. A phrase such as, "Let's pause and take the pressure out of this." Or, "I can see where this drifted. Let's realign together." Or, "I want to reset the tone before we continue." These small interventions can stop emotional momentum before it turns into confusion, conflict, or organizational fragmentation. They act as stabilizers. Not dramatic corrections. Just small adjustments that restore coherence. Ultimately, executive scripts matter because they help leaders communicate without emotional leakage. They reduce ambiguity. They increase predictability. They strengthen trust. And they help global organizations interpret messages more consistently. The best leaders do not use scripts because they lack authenticity. They use them because they understand the weight of their words. They know that clarity is not created by speaking more. Clarity is created by speaking precisely. This week, pay attention to your own leadership language. Consider not only what you are communicating, but how your words shape interpretation. Because in global organizations, every message carries emotion. And the most effective leaders learn to guide that emotion with intention. Thank you for listening to the MC3 Executive Podcast.